Shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we come to say thank you. We thank you for today. We thank you for your grace and your benevolence over our lives. We thank you for giving us good health. We thank you because you made this day possible. Father, accept our thanks in the name of Jesus. Lord, we are about to commence. Lord, even our program for today, we pray that your presence will go with us in the name of Jesus. Lord, we are asking, oh God, that you will give us a successful event that will have every cause to return all the glory to you in Jesus' name. For those that are joining us online and for those that are live, my Lord and my God, we pray, oh God, that even at the end of this event, we'll be more enlightened, and what we have learned will be used even to do things that are productive to the glory of your name in Jesus' name. We pray, oh God, for your guidance. We pray, oh God, for your leading. Father, please lead and guide us in the name of Jesus. Our speakers, we thank you for journey mercies that you have given to them from wherever they have come from. Father, we pray, oh God, that your presence will continue to abide with them in Jesus' name. We thank you for SP Ajibade. We thank you because you are moving us forward. All glory to you in Jesus' name. We declare this event open in the name of God the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to the 14th edition of the SPA Ajibade & Co. Annual Business Luncheon. We're delighted that you're able to join us today, and we thank you for your attendance and support. My name is Babatunde Ajibade. I'm the managing partner of the firm, and I'm delighted that we are hosting this 14th edition of this event that we have been hosting since 2008. For those of you who have attended previous editions, especially the early editions, you will recollect that these events used to be in-person events where we discuss topical issues affecting the legal profession in Nigeria, and of course enjoyed lunch whilst doing so. We have persisted in describing this as an annual business luncheon, even though because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the last edition and this edition have not followed the typical format. We've had to convert them to virtual events because of the restrictions on the numbers of people that can gather in one place. But this cloud has had a silver lining, a significant silver lining, because in the early events, one of the questions that we were often asked is, these events are topical, they discuss topical issues affecting the legal profession, but then we were only able to accommodate a limited number of people because our purse couldn't accommodate everybody. One of the benefits of going virtual as we have done is that we're able to reach a much larger audience and able to get people who are interested in the progress of the Nigerian legal profession and the legal profession worldwide and in Africa generally to participate. So the transition to virtual or hybrid formats has had that benefit. And I dare say that given the theme of this year's session, the fact that we are having it virtually and utilizing technology is in itself a significant point. The SP Ajibade & Co. Annual Business Luncheon is part of our corporate social responsibility. This series has been put together to add value as best as we can to the legal profession in Nigeria. And what we typically do is to invite a distinguished speaker to address the topic and invite an equally distinguished panel of discussants to discuss the topic. The topic for this year's annual business luncheon is technology and innovation. And when we typically have a bit of a debate in-house amongst our lawyers as to what the theme of our business luncheon should be. And when we were discussing possible themes for this year, there was some concern that perhaps the issue of technology had been overflogged, and that maybe we should look for something that is not something a bit more unique. But the truth is, we also quickly came to the realization that technology is so ubiquitous right now. Everywhere you look, in every sphere of human activity, technology is making inroads. And I, for one, feel that there is so much that we still don't know, so much that we still don't understand about the impact of technology on our lives, about the impact of technology on our profession, that even though there are a lot of events, a lot of speaking going on about it, we can't have too much. We can't have too much until we all come up to speed and understand the exact ramifications of technology on society and on our profession in particular. So that being said, we have put together a stellar panel, a guest speaker who is a subject matter expert, and discussants who are also subject matter experts to look at the theme, technology and innovation from different perspectives, from the perspective of a practitioner, from the perspective of an academic specialist, from the perspective of a high-ranking judicial officer, from the perspective of somebody who is already using technology to challenge the way in which traditional legal practice is conducted in Nigeria. So we thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you will enjoy the event as much as we intend to, and that you will learn something new today. One point that struck me, and I'd like to just note this, when we were developing the concept note, one of my colleagues said something about the 4 generations in the workplace. And I think that is probably one of the greatest challenges that we have with technology. The younger folk, the younger lawyers are a lot more attuned to technology than the older ones like myself, talk less of the much older ones like our founder. So how to bridge that gap? How to bridge the gap between the techie young ones and the dinosaurs, both in all the sectors of our profession. I think is one of the greatest challenges that we face in the profession in adapting to technology, and also how to bring it to bear in the other aspects of our profession, in the courts, in the registries, right across the spectrum. So we're looking forward to a very interesting session, and we hope that you will enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this year's annual business luncheon of SP Ajibade & Co. My role is to introduce the array of our speakers, and I'll introduce the first person on the panel. That is Professor Victor Rodriguez Doncel, who is a professor of ontology, engineering group, Artificial Intelligence Department of Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. He is a keynote speaker for today. The professor, a subject matter expert, is currently supervising about 5 students in this area. He's an associate professor of artificial intelligence, as I had earlier stated. He teaches in this area, this specialized area, artificial law, ethics, logic, probability, web science, and advanced semantic technologies. He's a researcher who has organized quite a number of programs in this area. He will be joining us today as the key speaker. The second person that I'd like to introduce is my Lord, the Honorable Chief Justice of Borno State, Justice Zana, was appointed to the bench of Borno State High Court in the year 1997 and became the Chief Judge in the year 2006. Is also an expert in the area of technology and is the chairman of the Judiciary Committee on he currently chairs the National Judicial Reform being undertaken as the chairman of NJC on Information Technology Committee. Milord has been involved in both local and international information technology programs that aid the practice of the law. The third person on our panel today is a well-known senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Oyetola Muyiwa Atoyebi, who was elevated to the rank of senior advocate in September 2019. Mr. Atoyebi is a trailblazer, being the youngest of that species of Alane friends that are elevated to the inner bar. But much more than that, he has an unwavering commitment to achieving clients' goals using the best of information technology that's available at his own time. He is particularly familiar with this area of discussion, with information technology, financing development of infrastructure projects, and has equally advised on development of pipelines, petroleum assets, jetties, among other big ticket transactions. Next in line of our discussion today is Mr. Okpe Olugaza, sorry. When you hear the name of that suit, Law Pavilion, that is the man that led the team that created that business. He's a foremost legal tech expert, an IT consultant, very passionate about legal technologies and acceleration of access to justice in Africa. Alumni of the Obafemi Awolowo University and Lagos Business School. And he recently also concluded a management program on artificial intelligence at Massachusetts Institute of Technology with focus on application of AI in the legal industry, and another course on blockchains and smart contracts. Currently a participant at another program, Stanford Seed Transformation Program, AI Impact Business Transformational Program by Stanford University. He's had an illustrious career spanning Coca-Cola, Nigerian Bottling Company. He's an innovative social entrepreneur. He's also a regular facilitator in programs such as this. And the last but not the least on our list of panel today is Funkola Odeleye. Funkola Odeleye is a lawyer and an entrepreneur with experience across commercial and corporate law firms, in-house counsel, investment banker, capital markets, investment advisor, and compliance and security expert entrepreneur. She holds an LLB from University of Lagos, Nigerian Law School, certificate of Call to Bar, and a master's degree in finance and financial law from the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. A co-founder of DIY Law Technologies Limited, is also a legal technology company focused on providing automated, accessible, and affordable legal services to Nigerian-based entrepreneurs. At DIY Laws, Funkola leads strategy and oversees core functions of the business, including its operations and business development. Beyond her role in that company, she leads the corporate, commercial, and intellectual property department at the Longer Practice, a law firm which she co-founded in the year 2015. She has also worked at FBN Capital, Kodos Capital, and George Ikoli and Okagwe before setting up her own entrepreneur and business. She was the 2019 Sub-Saharan winner and global finalist of the Entrepreneurial Award of the British Council Study UK Alumni Award. She's got a lot on her CV. I would like to stop here so that we get into the meat of the business of the day. Okay, so let me welcome to the stage the moderator of today's program, and that's our colleague, Mrs. Gabari. And the person that has been introducing the speaker is Peter Olalere Esquire. I'm a partner at the law firm of SP Ajibade & Co. Mrs. Gabari.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Olalere. And welcome once again to all those attending virtually. It's a pleasure to have you here. And without much ado, we'll go straight into why we're here today. And I'll be leaving the floor for our keynote speaker, Professor Dunsil. Please, over to you.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I have already been introduced, so I will not say anything else. I'm here in Madrid. Unfortunately, I cannot be there. I would like to be with you. We know in Spain about jollof rice, but I'm sure that you have a much nicer luncheon today. I wish I could be there. As I was introduced, I am a professor in artificial intelligence, and my area of expertise is artificial intelligence and law. So I think I can make an interesting presentation for you. Feel free to make questions or to interrupt me at any moment if you feel so. This is the place where I was born and the university where I studied, by the way. This presentation has two parts: artificial intelligence and new ICT technologies applied to the legal sector, and the European Union regulations of artificial intelligence and related technologies. There is a document that has been mentioned already and will be mentioned later on today. That is this United Nations document that identifies the disruptive technologies, the digital frontiers that will change everything. And you see that artificial intelligence is one of them. This is the most relevant for the legal profession. And also this is the one I work in. So that's why I focused on artificial intelligence today. I think the interest for you is double. In the one side, you want to regulate artificial intelligence. This is what you see in the left of the screen. You want to impose limits, barriers. You want to legislate on artificial intelligence sooner or later. In the other hand, you probably want to use artificial intelligence technologies in your daily professional life in the legal sector. This can be illustrated with two examples. First, about regulations. Some of you may know that in France, it's forbidden to gather statistical data of judges. So we have here Justice Kashim Zana today. It is not legal in France to collect statistical information about his rulings and his sentences so that computers can optimize the legal strategy when going to courts with Justice Kashim Zana. It is forbidden, and there is a penalty of up to 5-year prison. So it's something serious, right? So this is one of the aspects you have interest in, probably, the legislation of artificial intelligence. Second, I think sooner or later, new technologies have to be adopted in this sector, and those who do not do it will disappear, at least in the long term. First part of the presentation will be a series of examples on how artificial intelligence and new ICT technologies are being used in the legal profession. Artificial intelligence, by the way, is no other thing than cool software programs, good computer programs. The definition you see in the screen is the standard one: the capability of a machine to engage in cognitive activities typically performed by the human brain, but this can be everything. So, in a word, good software, right? Gartner is a consultancy firm which publishes a very influential report every year on the promising technologies that go through a hype, but at first they get much attention and there is a peak of inflated expectations, and then with the years a plateau of productivity is reached. I'm not showing this slide for you to see the different technologies. I want you to realize that even Gartner has published specific diagram for legal and compliance technologies, right? I think we better see this through different examples. First of all, predicting the results of a judgment. The sentence, the ruling of a court can be statistically predicted to some extent, considering the circumstances. So I'm giving you one example. Perhaps you get speeding too much and you have to go to the courts because this is a very serious offense in Spain. Well, the good computer programs will have a good database of previous rulings and will determine which is the optimal legal strategy in your defense, because they know that this has happened about 120 times. I'm telling you real data of a case I know. And out of these cases, they know that it was a successful strategy to claim that some substance, medicine, has been taken, and that this was the best possible approach to this case. These computer programs also take, not in France because it is forbidden, the particular quirks of the people, of judges, of courts, or of situation, right? And will give an advantage to the defendant. So those law firms that are not using this software are in a weaker position, right? Artificial intelligence can be used to anticipate the outcome of a divorce, right? Also, they have statistical information on previous cases, depending on how many children, what was your real estate, your income, and then the divorce settlement can be anticipated, which will be the child support, the alimony. This is an application called Divorce AI. Artificial intelligence can help you claiming for flight compensation when a flight has been canceled or your luggage has been lost. And there are applications, you follow a wizard, you introduce all the information and they assist you in all the process. Legal research is supported by artificial intelligence. When a professional is looking for a particular piece of information through millions of documents, new techniques can give you very accurately which are the most relevant documents, recommending you which other documents to read, automatically linking documents, so it's very easy to browse the documents. And this search is done over a variety of norms, sentences, books, doctrine, etc. There are even some computer programs that answer legal questions posed in natural language, in English, right? Using powerful systems like those of IBM Watson, a query is answered. There are also legal chatbots, where a machine is chatting with you, asking you for, you declare a problem, then the machine will ask you for information on the details, and then you will get support in a variety of administrative claims or fighting against companies, etc. Contracts can be managed or are being managed by artificial intelligence supported programs that assess the risk, analyze the text, automatically classify the contracts and the clauses. Oh, I want to see alternative clauses for termination. And then perhaps your company has a database of contracts, and then it will tell you which is the perfect clause for the contract you are writing, right? It can even identify abusive clauses in some cases. For every slide, I am giving you some links, right? I guess you will have the slides later on if you want to read more for most of the slides. These programs can help you also generating documents and report automatically, alleviating your daily work in a law firm, or even manage the cases, to issue the bills, etc. Artificial intelligence is being used by governments to detect tax fraud, money laundering, irregular movements, etc. Finally, these technologies are being used also, have been adopted also by the public institutions. In Europe, law is published in a machine-readable form. It means that law is published as data, so that machines can get access to the documents. It is not a PDF that is to be read by humans. It is also a piece of data that can be better processed by machines, so that all these programs that I was describing before can get the information from the law, can reason directly with it. These are the first steps towards rules as code approach that is being discussed now after a recent report from the OECD a couple of years, 1 year or 2 years ago, right? The rules as code. The idea is that in the long term, legislation will not be published in a written form alone. Legislation will be published along with executable code. So if we were talking before about divorce and there is a formula, you have to take the income and take the 10% plus blah, blah, blah. This formula, instead of being described as a piece of text, will be as something executable. You can imagine as a formula in the Excel spreadsheet or more advanced computation forms, of course, right? This is something that is being explored. And at least in Europe, the basis is settled because legislation is already published as data through this initiative called European Legislation Identifier, also in other places in the world. So I have described you a series of nice artificial intelligence and new ICT in the legal domain. And you have seen that they were very heterogeneous applications. Some of them were serving law firms, those to manage the contracts, to manage the bills, or general companies, right? Like those managing the contracts already. Some of them were targeting citizens who, instead of visiting a law firm, will use this application in the smartphone to claim for the luggage compensation, right? Some of them are being used by governments fighting against tax fraud, for example. And some of them were being used by a law publisher, by the legislator, right? So my message here is that these technologies are disrupting not only the professional life of a lawyer, but the whole sector is being transformed by these new technologies, right? So I said this talk would have two different approaches. First of all, technologies applied to the legal profession. This is called legal informatics, usually. I will now go to the second part of the presentation where I take a look at the other approach, how these new technologies are being regulated. My first observation here is that there are national artificial intelligence strategies around the world being drafted. This was an effort that started 2017, 2018. Now, most nations have an artificial intelligence plan or something like this. They have published white papers, reports, aware that this technology is disruptive and will change not only the legal profession, but the world in general. Right? In Europe, there has been national-wide initiatives. As you can see, I showed this slide for you to see that this is something recent, 2018, 19, 20, right? And these initiatives have impact in the public support through research and development programs. So legal innovation not only takes place in the private sector by Wolters Kluwers or the big or Westlaw or these big companies, these big firms, it also takes place funded with public money. In Europe, we have a research and development program for 7 years that is called Horizon Europe, and the budget is 100 billion euros. 1 euro is, I don't know, $1.10, I don't know how much, right? So it's a huge amount of money. A part of it is devoted to the area of law. Typical projects are about 3, 4, 5 million euros. I have led a few of them in the area of law and technology. And it's interdisciplinary research where researchers from the academia, law professionals from companies, and even people from public institutions, they work together and they cooperate in consortiums, in consortia that run a project which is ultimately funded with public money at the European Union. There is also much activity in the academia, and law firms organize hackathons, coding events where they bring together people from the software development. They bring hackers, enthusiasts of coding. They bring lawyers. They put them together, and they spend some time thinking of new applications, developing new applications. There is an organization called Legal Hackers. They organize these sort of events around the world. Perhaps someday SPA Ajibade wants to support one of these initiatives in Lagos. There are branches everywhere in the world. I couldn't find the one in Nigeria, so perhaps you can be the lead company promoting these activities. These days is taking place the 33rd edition of the Artificial Intelligence and Law Conference. I happened to organize the one 2 years ago in Madrid. Today is taking place at this very moment, the conference in Lithuania, mostly virtual, in a virtual form. And these conferences are also visited by not only by scholars, but also by investors, professionals, etc. Right. So I was saying that there is a general movement for promoting the artificial intelligence development that is funded by the European Union, but there are also legislative initiatives. First of all, a set of ethical guidelines and ethics reports and documents were issued very recently, a couple of years ago. Then more elaborated white papers defining what is trustworthy AI, very influential documents that determine the policies. And finally, it came the regulation of these technologies. In the European Union, the approach has been more restrictive than in China or the USA. They are trying to support the human rights instead of promoting the chaotic development, so to say. And finally, there is a new draft for a regulation in Europe that, if there is no surprises, in 1 year or two will be approved. It is a sheer contrast, this approach of artificial intelligence to make it human, with the measures that, political measures that are being taken in Europe to fight the pandemics. These measures have been a straightforward attack to the freedoms and liberties in Europe as it was never seen. So it's a contradiction anyway. The artificial intelligence regulation, therefore, has the objective of promoting the values of the European Union and fundamental rights, parentheses, while these rights are being destroyed with the pandemic's measures. They try to provide some legal certainty for companies to operate, and so that they do not find surprises in the operation. And they want to harmonize the way artificial intelligence is treated in all Europe, in a single market, right? They are trying to promote a single market for lawful, safe, and trustworthy AI application. This regulation applies not only to products developed in Europe, but products sold or used or offered in Europe. So it means that even if you have a brand in Nigeria, or you have a brand in the USA and you want to operate in Europe, you will have to abide with this legislation. You will have to determine your system to which level belongs. Artificial intelligence systems are classified according to their risk. So there are some unacceptable practices that are forbidden, completely forbidden. So it will be forbidden in Europe, for example, for governments to evaluate their citizens in a regular or massive way. Producing harm, physical or psychological harm, in a subliminal manner will be also forbidden, and also will be forbidden the real-time biometric detection of faces, face recognition, etc., unless it is really, really well justified. For those companies, this is completely forbidden. For those companies having high-risk technologies, they will have to nominate a delegate who will be responsible of this. Reports will have to be created. These activities will have to be notified. So a lot of measures have been taken in place. So the takeaways for this session are, for the first part, that in the long term, law firms will adopt artificial intelligence tools or die. The takeaway for the second part is that be ready to have norms on artificial intelligence, because sooner or later it will be a matter of discussion. And this is all I had to tell you today, and I am glad to give the next presenter the token. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. This was very enlightening, and we have seen that we don't have a choice. There's no going back on AI, there's no going back on technology, there's no going back on innovation. And so the next, the very first person I'll be calling as our discussants is my Lord, the Honorable Justice Zana, the Chief Judge of the High Court of Borno State. The floor is yours, my Lord. Thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator. I would love to share my screen. Okay. Now, I've been given a set of questions. You have my screen now? To discuss, and I'll discuss those, but
yes, we do, my Lord.
Good. Now, but I will have to highlight some of the takeaways that are actually relevant to my presentation, as anticipated ably by the organizers. Now, the lifeblood of AI is data, big data. Without data, there can be no AI. Another thing is the huge investments that have gone into making this possible in the European Union and the world over, and the need for regulating AI. Now, in Nigeria, just to give a big brief background, the Judicial Information Technology Policy anticipated these developments and thought of first having the judiciary take charge of the essential elements, and then generally on court automation, and then encourage the adoption of technology in courts. To do that, the concept was to have what we call a national judicial soft infrastructure towards developing a judicial justice sector ecosystem. Now, first, we put first things first. The policy was formulated, the Judicial Information Technology Policy, and disseminated to the courts and to key stakeholders. In implementation of the policy, the part of the NJC involved establishing a data center to have a central database for the work of the judiciary, particularly to develop and run also, the next one now, the Nigerian case management system, which is supposed to be the basis for the operation of courts, the superior courts in Nigeria, in a seamless manner, such that cases that start from the High Court come to the Court of Appeal by law and by our Constitution, and they do so seamlessly. Indeed, for example, the idea of transmitting records of appeal becomes just a paper age mentality, because the Court of Appeal will be accessing the record of the trial court from its own database, because they all have the same database. That makes it much easier for the court to access much more than what was accessible in paper, actually. Where disputes arise as to even minute incidences, the Court of Appeal can pull up that in line with procedure that is developed to view it and decide on it. Now this for the High Courts, for the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. Then filing cases too will be like the electronic, of course, to be electronically done. And here too, you will find that it will be by the same centralized method. Now you see on the screen the landing page of a lawyer when he wants to file a case in any court in Nigeria, any of the superior courts in Nigeria. And he will have a drop down, as you see, whereby he selects the court that he wants to file in. As soon as he selects that court, the rules that become operational in the management system become the rules of that court. For example, selects Borno, he will have, and then he will find the divisions. He chooses, for example, to file in view, and so on and so forth. And then you can see on the left, the dashboard of the lawyer, whether he intends to file a new case, file a document, maybe coming in as a defendant, his requests, things that he has requested to file, and if they have come up, you will see them. You see the tabs. And even chambers. Now that's something that we liaised with law chambers that were progressive, and we developed in a way that lawyers will find it easy to use the system. Now, these have been completed. The case management system in Borno, we've been using it since October 2020. The e-filing will commence. We had to wait to bring aboard some other courts so that we collectively serve as an example. We just finished setting up a test site for Bayelsa, Yenagoa. We have on our horizons other states. I will come to them later. Now, I'll quickly go to the challenges because I'm principally asked to address the challenges. Now, the challenges to the adoption of technology and the rollout too, principally are three. There are others, but I want to emphasize the three top ones. Number one is attitude. Two, the operational environment. Three, change and adoption management. Now, there's this slide this picture that demonstrates and encapsulates everything I will tell you. And it is this one. All the challenges are summed up by this photo. There is no challenge we have identified that is not surmountable. That is actually really a challenge. If only we realize that nothing is beyond us, that if we put our minds to it and with the right attitude, we can surmount them. Flowing from Professor's excellent presentation, may I just give an example and draw your attention to the fact that the IBM Watson-based Ross intelligence that was developed, that was a breakthrough milestone in AI. One of the developers, in fact, the founder, a co-founder of Ross Intelligence, I'll just tell you his name, Jimo Obiagele. So there is nothing we cannot do with the right environment and the right attitude. I'm sure that name, even if you don't know him, will tell you that we can do it. Now, to drill down to attitude, I'll just highlight a few that are of the attitudes that impede the adoption of technology. One is vested interests. There are interests that must prevail, or the holders of those interests, I think they must prevail. And I have used this very Nigerian expression, no matter what. It doesn't matter what the consequences are. If it's a setback to the nation, setback to the judicial profession, setback to justice, they must prevail. This is a challenge, but it's surmountable, and we are surmounting them. It is aggravated also by the dependence of the judiciaries. Now, for example, as you've seen, our architecture, the architecture we envisage is to have a judicial infrastructure, soft infrastructure approach, and ultimately to have a justice sector-wide ecosystem in order to mitigate the effects of silos-based development, which is a big handicap that we identified in many nations that attempted to automate earlier. But you'll find in quite a few areas where states and courts where they should be the champions to run this infrastructure and show example, they would rather develop their own sort of, which is the silos approach, whereby we'll now have scattered all sorts of systems that cannot talk to each other across the justice sector. And this is a great impediment. Even nations that had inadvertently fallen into that are retracing their steps to come up with an integrated architecture. But this is one of the challenges. Then unhealthy competition, that flowing into that, another part of the challenge that is fueling the silos approach is, again, our expression, I pass my neighbor. There's this understandable, but we should be able to resist it. The desire to have something and say, oh, we are the first, or we are the best. Actually, nobody is the best if only he is the best. We will all be the best if we have a system that is integrated, that is seamless, that delivers justice to any citizen in Nigeria. I don't want to make that convert my own to the lead presentation, but anytime we have an opportunity, I will demonstrate to you how the soft infrastructure works. For example, now any lawyer in Nigeria who has a client in my degree and needs an affidavit can finish the entire thing based on the infrastructure that we have, the NGC has rolled out through the legal mail. You can send in the affidavit, the client turns up there, they pull it up based on his legal mail, which is seen as an ID, and then the client is sworn and he leaves with an affidavit. So many of these things, given the opportunity, and we'll create the opportunity, I will explain in detail. Now, another one is hubris. And again, today, as I was thinking about this thing, my thoughts were interrupted by a program on Channels Television. One very, very able professor that Nigeria should be proud of was being interviewed. I thought he was interrupting me because I was rushing to produce these slides until he said something or he started a discussion that was exactly what I was thinking of. I said, this is not interruption. And I caught him. He said, the arrogance of ignorance is killing our educated ones. Now, I don't want to be turning it into a whining session, but sometimes the adoption efforts are hindered not just by persons who reject technology, but persons who really even appear to want to promote technology, but come in with hubris without even understanding what is being done. And you're explaining, they would rather you listen and do this, do that. I have seen this done somewhere. We love such people because they are our potential champions, but really some of them come with a lot of hubris. Tell them to read the information technology policy, they will not. And then they will come and tell you something that it has already even covered in more detail and more in-depth. So these are human things, but unfortunately, they do impact on the uptake of technology. The environment that we are operating now, our courts are all paper-based to a very, in fact, it's just all of them are paper-based, or were paper-based when we started. That means the challenge is a big one. But again, like I said, it's surmountable and we're surmounting them too. Then the lack of basic building blocks. For example, in most nations, every citizen has an ID. So when you're developing your case management system, it's that you use to, that you leverage to roll out certain functionalities. Here, we do have it, but you know, your guess is as good as mine if you can now count on the fact that every citizen will have an ID and build it on based on that. And then the absence of data. Again, Professor has now, again, in his lead presentation has shown how much is being spent by governments and how much judiciaries can leverage on already national undertakings to have the data, to have equipment, to have all sorts of things that they will need in order to use in the courts and in the legal profession. Here again, another one, even to get the approvals, because some of these things that we need to do, we need approval from other agencies of government. I don't, again, want to whine, but it's not been easy. We've had several delays because we needed some of these approvals from agencies under the executive in order to roll out certain things, to have certain functionalities in our system. Slow, but there too, we're getting somewhere. Now, of course, this is a challenge that all judiciaries or all efforts at automation have to confront: change and adoption management. Now, ours is also now further impacted and aggravated by those attitudinal factors that I have said and the environmental factors. So these are challenges that it's a challenge, but we need to, we are working on them, and to some extent we've succeeded. Now, I'm also asked to say how much we have, what efforts we're making to tackle and what methods we're adopting to tackle these challenges. One is, I must admit, I've been accepting all the thank yous and profuse gratitudes of Ladet Ese and Ajibade, but now it's time to confess that even my appearance here is part of the strategies to raise awareness. So I'm as much as grateful to SPA as they are to me. I'm even more grateful. Part of it is to raise awareness, and I'm sure we have creme de la creme of the legal profession and others. I have seen the attendance list. We are expecting you to also raise awareness that this thing is for our benefits all, and a silos approach will take us nowhere. And the key thing is for everyone to do his part. Everyone has a role in this thing. All you need to do is take it easy. Just do your own part. Your neighbor is doing his own part. The other court is doing his own part. Lawyers are doing their own part. And then they all come together and we have success. Now, the strategy to drive awareness and to highlight this thing is to recognize champions and leverage on their help to not only drive the awareness, but also adoption. I must say, in terms of states, Bayelsa is a leading one. We, about a few weeks ago, set up the test site for Bayelsa. And there again, I have not talked about manpower or anything. We have enough in this country, even in the courts, at least to run this system for the states. And then where high-end skills are required, the NJC has employed some, and again, if the other agencies permitting, will even employ some, so that the states or other courts will just need to escalate and quickly resolve whatever issues that they have. Bayelsa is one. Oyo has done its part because we send out a checklist of what you need to have, and it's basic because we understood our setup, and the NJC has done the heavy lifting to do the Oracle licenses. The big ticket items are all paid for by the NJC. Just get your system in place and send us a list of the documents that are filed in your court, just the list, so that we populate the system with that. And then from the lawyers will now be able to pick them up and file whatever documents that they need. That's all we need from the states and the courts. I must say, Oyo has now done its part. Ekiti, I think they are very, very much close. And in fact, they've come in so fast that I must commend them. And particularly the executive too, that actually is part of the drivers of this project. And instead of approaching that silos on I pass my neighbor or my boys will go and do it approach, they avoided it, and they are now keen in and supporting the NJC initiative, understanding fully well. Particularly the governor was just unbelievable as a leading Nigerian governor of an intellectual. So I must commend them. Very soon we'll set up their own site as soon as we get the documents. I understand they have even reached far in compiling the fileable documents. Kogi is another state. And I must also mention individual champions. Former Nigerian Bar Association President, Alege, fantastic. Without him, I don't think we would have reached the stage that we have reached now. Excellent support. He always comes in, sits down when we require him. Whatever we require of the MBA, it's provided. And that's why we're able to have a lot of the verifications, verified data of lawyers, blah, 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 blah. The present president too, Akpata, before he became president, he actually was one of those who made positive suggestions that we incorporated into what we're developing now. Ajibade, Idigbe, there are quite a few. And then also our able entrepreneurial young men and women Funkola is one of them. I'm DIY. I have gone in and it's marvelous. Sometimes I feel ashamed that we have not moved ahead to enable them to deliver more. Right now, they can only do a limited area of law because of the infrastructure is just missing in our courts. But very soon, hopefully, once we take off, they will come. And then again, our own system is such that we own the software, the source code of everything that we have. The idea is that we will allow development of plugins by our entrepreneurs so that they can also interface with the system. Let me not forget Ope. Ope left to me, Ope of Law Pavilion. I'm even surprised up till now that he doesn't have a national award. He deserves a national award. A lot of ground he has broken. So we do need champions, and these are part of the strategies of tackling the challenges. Without these champions, both in terms of states and court leaders and in terms of individuals, and particularly bar leaders, there is no way we can succeed. Suggestions are always solicited and welcome. So still, I must say, when it comes to challenges, it's just attitude, attitude, attitude. That's the crucial one. Once we can combat the attitude, once we can conquer the attitude, once we can have the right attitude, everything else is easy. We can solve them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my Lord. It has been an illuminating addition. We really appreciate you and your committee for the bold steps that you have taken in order to move the judiciary and the legal profession forward. We really appreciate all your efforts, my Lord. And I will want to use this opportunity to let our viewers know that we have polls going up. And also, please, your questions, kindly put them in the question and answer box. We hope this session will be an interactive one, so please, we want to hear from you. And I will not miss the opportunity to mention that SP Ajibade & Co. actually in 2018, in collaboration with Global Hackathon, we had actually participated, carried out a hackathon in Nigeria. So we are not new to this, and we hope to do more. So without much ado, I'll be leaving the floor for the next discussant, which is our Leonard Silk, Mr. Atoyebi. The floor is open to you, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator. And of course, thank you to my brother of the Silk, SP Ajibade, for this invitation and of course this opportunity. On my own part, I'll be talking about how technology is being used in our day-to-day lives as lawyers, law firms, and of course, what we also encounter in court, because of course, my Lord has said a lot of things that they are doing in the space of technology. But moving backwards towards where it all originates from, which is our respective law firms and our practical lives. When Doctor was speaking and doing his introduction, he mentioned something as regards how to bridge the gap between the older generation and the younger generation in the use of technology. And practical examples or practical experiences show that no matter how you push sometimes for the older ones to leverage on technology, they still believe so much in practical paper works, which sometimes also affects the works that lawyers do. So imagine you're out of town, whatever city you're in, and a new client walks in. How do you approach that? Or how do you ensure that there's a proper service delivery from your firm, or there's a proper interaction with the client? One of the things that has been able to solve that is the use of technology. A client walks in, has some form of engagement or interaction with your lawyers on ground, and then possibly there are naughty areas they need your intervention. Technology has been able to do that. So for us in our office, what we do most times is there is a central database that all of us have access to. And so different departments have different departmental heads. Anyways, but I also must caution that sometimes you need to put some checks in respect of this level of access that lawyers have, right? So that your information is safe and secure. Different grades or different levels of access to it. You have the partners level, you have the heads of departments level, and then of course you have the general people's level in respect of it. And it depends on what type of problem you're meant to fix. And so in such a situation, you're already seeing in real time what information people are using in the office and what information people are passing on in the office. And designed task, management of people's task, what they're doing, deliverables. And you know, sometimes with millennials, which I jokingly say, they tell you sometimes that they are working, and then how do you track that? And so in our office, for example, you have, the office has provided the office phone, official phone, and there's so many documents or so many layers and layers of things inside that phone that you're even holding. Office has provided for you laptops. This is different from your check-in times or your clock-in times or your clock-in hours. And in case your superior or your supervisor feels you're not working, he only just sends an email to the IT to say what's happening on this system, we're meant to be working on this, who is not working on it. And of course, the information is real time. And so before you even enter our office to work as a young lawyer, we tell you things you think we do not know. Mere access to the office systems gives us access to everything you do. And so there's usually a back-end conversation with lawyers to say, please, these are the rules. Try as much as possible to adhere to it. And so there's no, and computers don't lie, by the way. Computers would not change, and you cannot even alter it. And so those are things that, practical technological things to ensure that your value for time is used well and appropriately. And well, sometimes people say, can they bring in their private laptops? And it's a policy, you cannot bring in your private laptops. I don't have issues with you having as many laptops as possible, but once you're working in the firm, this is what it is that you would use. And so it cuts away issues of not being able to track efficiency of staff. And so deliverables, as much as possible. As a lawyer, what's most important for you is to be able to deliver for your client, service delivery. And if you're able to do that, then you know as much as possible that you're generating income, you're able to sustain the office. It's usually not easy to get lawyers to function in a particular way. And so, like Doctor said, sometimes you have to have several meetings to say, please comply with these rules. And once you're able to get such, then people would comply. And so, despite the fact that a lot of law firms have big libraries, I can tell you not many lawyers enter that library. So what we try to do for our lawyers in the office is all those information you need from the library, you have in your system. And of course, you have those tools, you have those research platforms, you have Law Pavilion, for example, and then there is no excuse as to your commitment to your work. And initially, we first had it on the systems, and then you get a lawyer say, I cannot carry my system, I am not there, it's not possible. So we said, we get you a bigger phone. And with phones these days, you can push in everything. But then sometimes also you have complaints about lawyers saying it's not uploading. So we put in a third layer, which is IT is 24 hours in our office. You need a back-end work, get into the IT system, IT tells you what to do, they push it up to you straight. And so this ensures service delivery, right? But the challenge, which is also part of the things I'm meant to speak about, is how many people, one, can afford it, because these things are not cheap at all. They are really expensive. I heard a lot of law firms had issues at the wake of COVID being able to go to work, particularly for states that were literally locked down, right? And you had clients you had to service. I had a bit of our own challenge, even though we thought we had the big technology to resolve the issues. But at some point, the tech people had to start sleeping in the office to be able to be able to ensure support for all the lawyers, and that is additional cost to you. Who bears the cost? Because nowadays, pricing is also very, very it's a challenge in the profession. Sometimes other law firms or lawyers will undercut and say, I can actually do this half the price. But if you've looked at it, time that you've put into it, the technology you've invested, who is going to bear the cost? And so this is what is usually a challenge. Beyond that, something that most times we miss and something that we don't talk about is the issue of protection of this data, one, and also the people on your back end. How do you ensure that those data are not released to the public? Because an example, you have a problem with your IT guy. What do? How do you manage it? And those are real issues, real-time issues. We do not have, I'm glad that my Lord mentioned that they have a back-end infrastructure, which is tailored particularly for the judiciary. And I was speaking with the Office of the National Security Advisor on some of these issues. And I said some of this critical infrastructure, let us make it a crime that whoever touches it, it's a problem. Because as at today, these things are not criminalized. Anybody can just hack into your system and that's the end of it. Not too long ago, somebody hacked into an MDA's website, did whatever thing he wanted to do and left. Nothing happened, no tracking. Of course, some of these things are off records that you cannot even talk about. How about, or how much more, law firms, courts? Are these critical infrastructure, are they protected by law? And thank God judiciary should be able to protect itself, as my Lord the CJN said, we will now protect ourselves. This is one of the things that they need to do. Critical infrastructure. If somebody tampers with it, what would you do? But those ones are beyond what, of course, like my Lord said, this is just awareness and of course looking out for ways in which people can be aware of things to do. Moving on from our different law firms with different technology that we adopt to ensure that our work is properly done. We look at going into courts and trying to engage with the courts. Recently, I heard that Lagos State, while trying to do their own e-filing system, there were a lot of backlogs for about 4 days. Perhaps maybe it has been cleared now, but those are the challenges that lawyers would have when you try as much as possible to synchronize some of these systems. And thank God MBA has given everybody official emails. And one of the things I tell people is, if you want to look at a very functional court in Nigeria, look at the Supreme Court. The court, for example, you cannot file without you having your official email in it. And of course, even after filing, there are some other processes that you have to follow in respect of it. Maybe the bigger boys in the firm might not be the ones running this show behind the scene. The younger boys, when they go and come back to the office and say, these are the challenges that they are facing in respect of it. In Supreme Court, for example, whatever it is you're doing is being recorded in the court. And sometimes, even if the justices decide to write, well, as far as I'm concerned, they are just being They want you to see that they are writing, but everything is being recorded. And so the challenge or the problem the question I keep asking is, why don't we have those automated system from top to bottom in perhaps all the superior courts? But of course, the issue of funding and budgeting comes in. Who bears the cost? Do they even release the monies to the judiciary to be able to do whatever it is they're doing? Well, it's not all gloom or gloomy. As my Lord said, they are already working on issues like this. And administration of criminal justice, the ACJA itself, gives provision for issues as regards suspects or defendants, how you should profile them, how you should have their information, how you should be able to have a database for everybody for easy access to justice. But in real time, how many states are able to do it? And you know, sometimes you enter the courts, and as a matter of fact, there are times I pity my lords when we go to court. And sometimes I tell people, I'm not sure these things are rocket science. Have technology in place. Let the person come in to speak, say what he wants to say, and he moves out of court. Then somebody else transcribes it, you read it at your time, then you're able to take a lot of cases. And sometimes when maybe senior lawyers enter courts and their cases are done, then you hear younger lawyers grumble and say, how come their own cases cannot be taken? But technology can solve all of these things. Everybody has an allotted time and they move on in respect of it. So some of these challenges for me are things like my Lord said, we need to change our attitude, and we need to be able to see that these things are workable and these things are things that we can do. And so technology as it is around us. Maybe lastly, a few older folks reject technology because they think that it would possibly make them obsolete. Younger folks also, right? Sometimes for those progressives anyways, there are statistics that says that by 2036, 70% of all these jobs that lawyers do will get automated, and computer would probably be the ones doing it. Then you have only 30% of the work being done by real-time lawyers. But I still say it's usually a human interface between the computer and the clients, right? And so no matter how much the fears as to whether computers or artificial intelligence will take over the works of lawyers, I still know strongly that that time is still far. But before we get there, let all of us individually begin to at least have this open-mindedness towards appreciating what technology has been able to do or what is meant to do. But of course, creating a balance to ensure that we do not transfer all our responsibilities to these computers, and to ensure that we still have lawyers or individuals having to do some of these works. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leonard Silk. We appreciate your practical insights, and you have actually left us with a lot of food for thoughts. Thank you so much. Now I'm going over to Mrs. Odeleye. DIY Law Technologies Limited, as we understand it, is a legal technology company focused on providing automated, accessible, and affordable artificial intelligence-driven legal services to Nigerian-based entrepreneurs. Now, what this means is that potential clients can go online to your platform, select a product, perhaps a document, fill the required fields, make payments where required, and download a document or access a service without needing to contact you in person. Now, the question is, can you tell us how receptive the Nigerian market has been to your services, and what pushbacks you have had to deal with in line with this quest to automate legal services? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, moderator. Good afternoon, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here today. I want to acknowledge all those who have spoken before me. I'm sorry, it appears that my video is dark, and I'm really sorry if you can't see me very well. But I want to acknowledge everyone who's spoken before me. Thank you, my Lord, the Honorable Justice, for acknowledging the work that we do at DIY Law. I also want to thank everybody who sort of laid the ground, not only for this conversation, but to even be able to utilize technology in providing legal services. And to shed some perspective into your question, there's always this scary thing about when something hasn't been done before. And the pushback is may not necessarily be external. A lot of times it's internal. And I remember when DIY Law was going to start, we had so many hesitations and we thought, this is needed. And I think I should step back a little bit and tell you why DIY Law started. It mainly was to create efficiency, and it may not originally have started with the intention of, we want to disrupt the markets. It started with the intention of creating efficiency. I found myself as a lawyer who was providing legal services to SMEs, sitting in meeting after meeting every day of the week on things as simple as a business name registration, for example. And you would spend time traveling to either visit a client, or a client comes all the way in traffic, and we know how Nigerian traffic can be, to your office to come and have conversations with you. And at the end of the day, it's a 30-minute conversation on them wanting to register a business name or register a limited liability company. And it just wasn't efficient. Again, even beyond intake of the client's brief, it was monotonous for a lawyer who had to do things like review contracts, God knows how many hundreds of pages of contracts, sitting down to register a company or going to the CAC office at the time, because even then the CAC wasn't fully automated, spending time going to the CAC office at the time every day on end to register companies was very, very monotonous. And so in trying to create the efficiency of how do we not spend so much time, in traffic or scheduling meetings, sitting down and taking in information for business name registrations, company registrations, trademark registrations, and how do we also ensure that we're standardizing our processes, like we're giving the same service to different clients, no matter where they came from, as long as that's what they required. And that's where technology came in. Technology does that, which we can't exactly do as humans day in, day out. And so automation came into play. With introduction of technology, something as simple as a client intake form. And I want to mention that when we say legal technology, it's pretty much technology that's adopted in every other sphere and field of life, and you just tailor it to the legal services sector. And so it's things that people would ordinarily not push back on. If somebody said, oh, fill this form online, it's for sending information to your bank, people would have no problems with it. But the moment it starts to look like it's specialist, then that's where you start to see pushbacks. But the adoption of technology is something that happens in every sphere of life. So you use it in finance, you use it even at the doctor's office, you use it for examinations or to filling questionnaires or forms. So why can't we adopt the same thing in technology, in legal services? And so anyway, DIY Law was born to sort of ease out inefficiencies and standardize processes in providing legal services to clients. And the pushback, like I said, started internally is, this is not something that we've seen done in Nigeria. Sorry, I've just sent a message saying you can't hear me. Hello?
We can hear you. Please go on.
Oh, okay. All right then. Thank you. So I was saying that it's internally this is something that hasn't been done before. Would it see the light of day? Would it succeed? And then even when we got through the internal hurdles, it also became what's the reception going to be? And we had different stakeholders to be mindful of. Not only was there a demography that needed to be served with these kinds of services, there was also, we understand how law is being practiced in Nigeria. We also understand that we have, I will say, our practice is regulated. So is there anything we're doing that will be breaking our rules of professional conduct? And we made sure that we weren't breaking any laws. And truth of the matter is the market was very ripe for it. there's not been any pushbacks because like I said, we're keeping within the ambit of the rules of professional conduct. We are providing services, and it's lawyers, qualified lawyers, who are providing these services. So it's not, I'll say, alternate legal service providers who are not qualified to, provide these services. And what we've just done is taking our job as lawyers and put some technology automation just to create efficiency and standardizing the process. And with that, I don't need to be sitting in a meeting. Somebody can go online and put all the information they want for either a document, say a board resolution after a board meeting, and it gives them a clean template of how this is done, and they can download it almost immediately after, or even an employment contract. These are contracts that were drafted and are reviewed by lawyers. So it just takes that layer off of sitting in traffic, trying to visit a lawyer, or even sending a long email, trying to get a service that you can easily, access by yourself. And what we've noticed, I mentioned earlier that the market was ripe for it. There's a certain demography, and I want to borrow from the words of the learned silk, Mr. Toebi, saying that the millennials, I don't want to call them millennials because people ask me if I'm also not a millennial, and I struggle to find what I fit into. But there's that demography that you cannot tempt with anything but technology. But even beyond them, there's also that demography, even older people who are starting to look for convenience, who are starting to look for, affordability. And they're like, we can't continue going to the lawyer's office every now and again, or trying to get a meeting. And so is there some way to access the services without necessarily moving a muscle or moving from a place? We've also got to this point in Nigeria where, again, very unfortunately, there aren't a lot of jobs. And so people are creating jobs for themselves. People are becoming entrepreneurs because they're pretty much tired of, sending in application letters back and forth. And these are the people that you want to provide the services for, just so that the market is sane. Imagine when people go into business out of necessity, the first thing they're not thinking about registering their businesses. And so they quick find that their businesses are capped. They can't open I'll say bank accounts, or they can't even progress, or their businesses can't exactly scratch the surface because they're not a formal legal entity, and so their growth is limited. So these kinds of people, you need to take legal services to them. You're not, making it inaccessible and being in our fancy offices somewhere. We're not going to be able to crack that demography. And so technology helps us to do this. You're able to meet people where they are. And we understand the smartphone and internet penetration in Nigeria, and it's grown in leaps and bounds since the introduction of GSM and data services. And so everybody is on their phone or on their computers looking for services. There is a boom in trade of social media. There are people who are just entrepreneurs on social media, and they're making a whole lot of money. So these are the kinds of people I'm saying you need to take legal services to them. And, it's in the quest for access to justice and access to legal services, meet them where they are. And so with technology, we've been able to provide that. People don't know where to find a lawyer. People don't know where to register their company, even with all the sensitization that the CAC is making. So private sector can step in, and that's what we've done at CIY Law. It's been very receptive. We've been in the business for almost 7 years, and there's just a huge demand for the service. More people want us to add on different things, and as the Honorable Justice said, support for not just us, but any private sector who's trying to do this. Technology is expensive, as we've alluded to. And so just any sort of support, just so that, because the private sector can't do this by themselves, will be very, very much appreciated, because there's a lot to crack, and there are a lot of people to reach. So I'll just summarize to say that providing legal services enabled by technology is very necessary. The market is big enough. There's some things that obviously cannot be automated. So we need not worry about if our jobs are going to be taking. Technology is an enabler, and it doesn't replace the need for a lawyer. Lawyers are the ones who are going to have to, you know, program the same technology. So there's no need to fear. We're the ones who are in control. You make technology work for you and technology doesn't work against you. And so the market is very receptive. Our learned colleagues are also signing up on our platform and providing legal services that we don't currently provide with technology. So we're sort of giving them a marketplace for them to be able to offer their services to more people. So in summary, it's been very receptive. There have indeed been pushbacks, but we're in that place where we're sensitizing people to let them know that technology works for you and doesn't work against you, depending on, you know, how you choose to utilize it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Odele. In fact, I have to applaud you for this disruption that you have brought in. It's really commendable, and I'm sure there are mixed reactions. There are some lawyers I'm sure that are happy with you, and a lot that are very unhappy with you. But it's a much needed disruption, and we applaud you for the courage for taking this on. Before I go on, you brought to our attention that there's actually a legal hackers group in Nigeria, and the question is, how can lawyers be part of this group, please?
Thank you. Dr. Rodrigo Dorsell was very kind to put the LinkedIn link in the chat section. So there's a link if you maybe are attending physically and can't see it. There is a LinkedIn group. So please just search for Legal Hackers Nigeria. There is that LinkedIn group and can join on LinkedIn. They frequently hold events and hackathons. I know there's a chapter in Imo State as well, and so not just in Lagos. And hopefully more states can, more people can open different chapters so that it's not just in Lagos and it's closer to everyone. But please check on LinkedIn for Legal Hackers Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this information. We'll also share the link. And please let me repeat once again at this time that we have polls going up. Please, when you see them, please respond. And please don't forget to put in your questions. We are receiving quite a few in the question and answer box. Thank you very much. And last but not the least, on our panelists, we have someone who in the legal profession now that we cannot do without. So let me just leave the floor for Mr. Olugasa. Sorry about that. Mr. Olugasa, Law Pavilion Business Solutions. Over to you, sir. I was told to call him Mr. Law Pavilion.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on which side of the globe you are. I want to say a big thank you to SP Ajibade and co for this opportunity. So I've been asked to come to just discuss briefly on the nature of change lawyers should expect in the coming years, and what practitioners should learn in preparation for what is to come. So in saying that, I have about 5 possible areas of change that lawyers should be expecting, the trends. But before I say that, what quickly came to mind was the story I heard of Chief Rotimi Williams, one of his, of blessed memory, SCN, of blessed memory, when he was in court, and then he was arguing on the weight of evidence. And then I understand that he had talked and spoken very eloquently. And at the end of the speech, he went to sit down, and then the chair gave way. So, I was, oh, sorry, and all those ones. And in his characteristic humorous self, he just stood up, said, "My lord, we just finished arguing the weight of evidence. What you have just seen now is the evidence of weight." So what I'm saying, in essence, is that what we are seeing today as a hybrid event is the evidence of a serious transformation in legal service delivery. And Doctor has rightly said it at the beginning that in the initial earlier years, this was a luncheon, fully physical event. But now it's hybrid. And the good part of it is you can even reach more people. I could imagine if you were to bring Prof in, how much you would have had to spend, but you can have a higher participation, and this is what technology does. So the first thing I think changes that lawyers should expect in the coming years, and maybe not just coming years, what was meant to be 10 years, now with COVID that has fast-tracked many things, will be happening in 1 year, 2 years. So the first one is that there's going to be digital transformation across the whole sector. And the interesting part of this now is going to be regulatory body driven. So I could identify with Funkola when she was saying when they started, there were pushbacks in the industry. For us, to when we started, in fact, in our case, they laughed at us. I cannot forget the first experience when we went to NBA conference in Ilorin in 2007, and we gave the idea of electronic law reports, and lawyers laughed that, look, this can't happen in Nigeria, and that you mean I would get in front of a judge in court and they would tell me, I would tell them, look, my authority is electronic, and they would just send them out of the court. But today, it's completely the other way around. Even judges have adopted it more than lawyers. But what we are seeing now, then we are telling them, look, it's a tsunami, the system will have to embrace it. But now it's even the regulatory bodies that are pushing for this digital transformation. I'm so glad, very much championed by Dr. Ajibade himself just yesterday. And this was a major issue over the years in adopting technology and electronic law reports. Just yesterday, the LPPC, the chairman of the CGN himself, announced that from next year, application for SCN will be done purely digitally. My Lord, Honorable Justice Kashmzana has mentioned the push and the drive towards e-filing and all this one. So it tells me that regulatory bodies are going to even be the ones pushing for digital transformation. So lawyers, law firms, legal practitioners need to understand that in the coming years, the norm will now be the digitally transformed legal service delivery. And there's a whole lot of bouquet about that. NBA as well. I understand this year's NBA was purely, the registration was purely online. Before now, it was hybrid and all this one, but now it's all the bodies that are moving towards this transformation. That's one. Secondly, is that due to COVID, and statistics says it, that a lot of services should be consumed now online and real time. McKinsey, for example, gave different statistics on telemedicine and remote learning and all those ones. And legal service delivery will not be left behind. Clients right now will prefer or will begin to ask for legal services purely online. They would most likely not necessarily want to have to come to your office. For example, a client, let's say in Lagos, will not necessarily want to fly down to maybe Benin because he wants to consume legal service in Benin. He would rather just engage with any law firm that is digitally alive. So it tells me that legal practitioners need to pay close attention to their digital footprints. How you engage with clients, how clients will even get to know you, both local and foreign clients. Most of this now will be evaluated online, and it depends on your reputation, your digital reputation. Those are the things we're seeing. And then another one, even still in that, in terms of service delivery online, will be firms that use practice management ability. The latest SIG has mentioned about being able to work remotely. And so for me, it's about having digital branch for law firms, okay? The third one is that I'm seeing that there will be a lot of more automation. And I will come very shortly to AI. Now, there are softwares that do contract drafting, that help to draft contracts, that help to review contracts, that do due diligence. You know why some of these things are going to happen? Is because clients are also going to be demanding more for less. And that means to be able to meet up with the client's demand and not necessarily have to increase your resources, you need to do a lot of, adopt automation so that things that can be done with computers without you having to do them manually or the way it was being done before. There are a number of technologies to do that. An example of automation in the courts, I think Lionel Sig also mentioned it, and I think Lord Justice Kamsizona said it. It's as simple as scheduling of sitting or appearances. So you go to court, the court sits at 9 o'clock, and everybody needs to be in court at 9 o'clock. I don't think that will work so much anymore. What we are seeing now, it was just what the HR industry discovered years back. I remember having an interview. The interview was meant to say we all come there at 8 o'clock. We all got there at 8 o'clock. I'm not sure I left that place at 12 until 12 midnight. And you know the funniest thing, I wasn't even taken. I've been waited from 8 to 12. But you see, what they did then is that instead of, you just schedule it, gauge it maybe 30 minutes per person, per applicant, and then you may use before more or less. But at least the next person comes by 8:30, the next person by 9. So even the person that's scheduled for 9, if he or she doesn't have the floor by 9 o'clock, maybe 15, 20 minutes, but it's not like someone is waiting from 8 o'clock and then by 1. Even with that, the infrastructure of the court will be much more efficiently used. Those are one of the things we're seeing in terms of automation, and there's software that can actually do this. Then I will just comment a little bit on what Prof said. AI is spoke extensively on AI, so I think with that, you have demystified what AI, artificial intelligence, means. Most of the times, lawyers have accosted me, look, what are you saying about AI? You mean you are saying machines will take over our work of lawyering? Definitely no. But bringing it home is actually going to, if used well, is going to augment our practices. And I will give 2 examples. One, imagine you are in court and then you have a fully functional speech-to-text transcription software. This is backed by AI. And then my lord doesn't need to write in longhand. The proceedings can happen much faster. Now there are speech-to-text solutions, but many of them are not, they can't recognize, my kind of local diction, you understand? But with technology that's actually been tuned for Nigerian pronunciations, it makes life easier. We are investing heavily in this area, so by God's grace, very soon, these are some things that will come, but these are some trends that will happen. But another one I want to say on AI, which everybody has said, that this is on big data. A number of these data are even internal. They are in our office, they're in our backyards. Sorry, Leonard sick, let me not put you on the spot, but let me just, a little example. When was SP Ajibade started? Wow, 1967. Well done, sir. But I'm wondering, the lawyers that started then, I'm not sure any one of them is still a counsel in the firm now. Oh my, okay, with due respect, sir. But I'm almost certain most of the people were definitely, some were not even born at that time. So if a matter comes, I'm also certain that some matters that would come today, that would even come next year, some of them would have handled something that is in that direction, in that line before. But a young lawyer comes into the firm, the person has to go, is not even aware that you've handled several of such before, and then the person has to go and start researching again and learn the ropes all over, reinventing the wheel every now and then. Some contracts that have been drafted before, yes, maybe with new changes and new laws, the person has to go and redraft them. But imagine if you have all those data digitized, and not only digitized, now built into an AI model. So as someone is just putting in the facts of the case, it goes in and checks, oh, okay, you've done this kind of matter before. In fact, you have like 10 of them. And these were the outcomes in court and in those years. And then you can check, okay, why was the outcome like this? So you can learn from retrospective institutional knowledge. And before now, it's only the principal partner that would likely know most of this. But with AI, you can automate knowledge across the whole system, the whole spectrum. And these are things we're seeing that will happen. And it makes your firm, in fact, a young lawyer can operate as a senior advocate. That's what it will do, because if someone is drafting an agreement, and then it says, oh, it looks like this kind of agreement we've drafted before, and then you can learn from institutional knowledge. Now, that's that one. And the last one, okay, sorry, second to the last, I will be very brief now, is on smart contracts. I'm always very, very passionate about talking about smart contracts because it's something that many legal professionals are not yet looking into. So a good example of smart contract in its simplicity is just the NEPA card, the prepaid meter card that we use. Now you don't have to go to NEPA to start disputing any bill and all those ones. So that's just something, a concept that smart contract does. And we're going to be seeing Kaya, for example, is doing something. So your land registry, your digital, Kama 2020, for example, has recognized digital assets, giving them back into digital assets. So there's going to be things in that aspect. And then just this year, I think 2 months ago, CBN has introduced the e-wallet. That's the e-Naira, which means transactions are going to be more facilitated online. And I'm so glad when Prof was talking about the rules as codes. Now, all these are moving towards smart contract. And I will give you a very funny example of smart contract. Now, 3 weeks ago, I was in Abuja. So I was coming back and then I booked my flight for 9:30 p.m. I won't mention the name of the airline. By 4 p.m., they sent me an email that, sorry, the flight has been rescheduled due to operational reasons to 12:35 a.m. And then in my mind, that is to one. When will I get to Lagos? So I just decided to buy another ticket. So I was just booking the ticket. I was about paying when they sent me another mail that has been reinstated. So, okay, I just said, no problem, I won't pay. By the time I got to the airport at 9:35, then they now announced that, sorry, again, due to operational reasons, it has been moved to 12:35. I felt so bad. But believe you me, at 1 a.m., we were still in Abuja. I think I got to Lagos around 2 a.m. that night. And I'm fast forwarding my mind back. A friend of mine, in fact, I was coming from India one day. They delayed my flight or so, and they offered me a free return ticket. And this happens. Why are these happening in other places? Because you could lay claim. Now with smart contracts, just push your mind forward. So everything is codified. I pay for my receipts online, and then every hour, if there's a refund, it's a service level agreement. So the smart contract automatically executes it. There is an amount that is refunded to me. What do you think will happen? All the airlines will sit up because delay becomes, now it's because it's facilitated by smart contracts. It is self-executing and it's autonomous. And these are the things we're seeing. Lastly, is that there will be new frontiers, and other speakers have spoken about that, new areas of legal practice that this will throw up, like the AI risk, like data privacy, quite a number of them. And these are things that lawyers will be, that the legal practitioner, the legal industry will be experiencing in the coming years. How will you prepare yourself for this? Being in programs like this, hobnob with the millennials. They have the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Law Pavilion. And he has told us, watch out for smart contracts. So without much ado, I want to appreciate our keynote speaker and all our panelists. We have results of our polls, so let me quickly read them out so that everybody will be in the know. The first poll, the question was a World Economic Forum report. A World Economic Forum report has forecast that half of all tasks will be handled by machines by 2025. With this in mind, do you see the introduction of technology, especially AI, as a threat or an enabler? Now for our answers. We have 44 persons agreeing that it's a threat. 44% of the participants agreeing that it's a threat. We have 36% saying no, it's not, and we have 20 saying maybe. Now the results for the next poll, the question says, do you think that the courts in Nigeria ought to adopt virtual hearings as the primary mode of conducting proceedings in which witness evidence is not required? For yes, we have 67%. For no, we have 28%. And for maybe, we have 6%. So we can see the mind of our lawyers, where we are going to. Last but not the least, the last question on the poll, in which of the following areas do you think technology will most impact law? Virtual courtrooms, 30%. Law office management, 14%. Automation of legal services, 17%. Alternative dispute resolution, 5%. Legal research, 23%. Enforcement and implementation of laws and court decisions, 11%. So we're all in for virtual courtrooms then, and we are hoping that it will be a reality sooner than later. So those are the results for the polls. It's now time for the question and answers, and we have quite a few. So we'll try to run through them as quickly as possible. To our keynote speaker and our panelists who will be answering, please try and be as brief as possible. Thank you. So the first question will be going to our keynote speaker, and I think this gentleman is looking for directions. This is from Chidebere. He's asking, what can I do if I want to learn a lot in technology and law, especially Internet of Things? I hope you got the question, Prof.
Yes. I think the key to success is to be in a multidisciplinary community, to put together lawyers, computer scientists, etc. That's why I was suggesting before activities like legal hackers, etc., that bring together all these energies and forces to create solutions. Do not work alone, join a community.
Thank you very much. So I hope you got that, Chidebere, and I'm sure the link for the hackers group has been shared by now. My next question will be going to my Lord. My Lord, in fact, you have so many questions, but I'm not sure I can I can release all to you. So, but let me start with the first one. It says, my Lord, different states now have their independent case management systems, and they gave examples like Lagos and Ondo. This seems to violate the plan to have all courts on the same platform. What exactly does this implementation of NCMS stand? Where exactly does the implementation of the NCMS stand, my Lord?
Thank you very much. I think if you followed my presentation, this is what I was referring to, the silos approach, which each state or states coming up with different systems and the disadvantages of that. And I'm glad it is appreciated. The fact is, they needn't spend money to do that. What they needed to do was roll out the case management system already developed by the NJC, full stop. But I understand there is some of these states, we don't want to say they are doing a bad thing. Actually, it's driven, it's good intentioned, but the effect may not be positive. So I also looked at the Q&A, so I will combine a few of the answers. My answer, I'll take into account some of the questions in giving this answer. It's not too late. Actually, our infrastructure-based approach even supports or anticipated this and has already built in correctional measures. For example, Rivers State has also rolled out their own NCMS, but their own NCMS is already leveraging on infrastructure provided by the NJC through the legal mail. So as we go on, if it becomes, the time comes, and it will come, when we realize the importance of having an integrated and seamlessly interfacing system, then we'll cross that bridge. Thank you very much. I must, the point was inadvertently also brought by the learned SAN at Oebi when he was commending the Supreme Court for the legal mail. That is one of the projects of the JITPO, Judicial Policy Implementation Committee. Also the courtroom that he commended in the Supreme Court. Actually, our intention, that court was completely under the committee. It was supposed to be, our intention was to set it up so that it will serve as an example to all other courts as the court of today or court of tomorrow as at that time that we were contemplating it. And what we expected was replication. For example, the rich states that are spending a lot of money can come in, look at this court and replicate it so that trials, when trials are thrown up by the activities of the Fukolas and the OPEs, because they will be high-tech trials, these courts should be able to take in evidence thrown up by today's litigation, that is with digital forensics and whatnot. So everything is there. So that was the whole idea. Our approach has always been do it and show it. Otherwise, the approach of our people is that, no, this is not possible. Like exactly like Ope said in Ilorin, Ope, go and check your database. You will find that you were Grace Infotech, and Kashim Zanna was one of your first. When others were laughing at you, I was spending my money buying your product. So I'll leave it
True,
there.
my lord.
Thank you very much, my Lord. And I want to believe that James, Bayo, and Ifoma, my Lord answered your questions when he was answering the first question. Thank you very much, my Lord, for that approach. So the next question will be going to the learned Silk. And the question is, will Monitoring Council to practically know what they are doing at all times because they work for you, not lead to a breach of privacy?
I actually thought you were going to ask, someone was going to ask that question. But then anyways, we don't monitor them on everything they do. We monitor whatever it is you're doing on the system, because of course, we're also careful on people's privacy. But during your working hours, which is working hours for the firm, which you're being paid for, and I'm sure you already understand, there's no privacy as regards that. Is office time, simpliciter, right? And so we try as much as possible not to overstep our bounds, but when it comes to the work that you're meant to do, we ensure that you do it appropriately. Sorry, I was also going to mention one issue to my Lord Justice Zana. We're hoping, or I'm hoping, I'm predicting the future that someday we will have judges that are appointed only for technology judges, meaning they are justices, you will never see their faces, you don't know them, they are just appointed, they are online, that is their job, they go through the cases, go through the processes of trial. You can actually also elect if you want to go to a physical court or you want to go before those virtual courts. Thank you.
Leonard Silk, we can't wait for the days those predictions will become a reality. The next question goes to my sister. And the question is, how can lawyers leverage on the internet for legal business opportunities? Mrs. Odeleye, please.
Right. There are too many answers to that question. And honestly, I have to be mindful of time. But I will say that I think what the starting point should always be what makes you more efficient and what frees up your time so that you can do what matters the most. And that's being a lawyer. So you can automate your client intake. And so, the way you sign up clients, there's technology for that. Even if you don't, I want to allude to the fact that technology can be expensive. And if you don't want to pay a lot for that, you can use simple things like Google Forms, Typeform to elicit information about your clients, and then you can intake them with technology. You can also use Microsoft Word, like general word processor. So just invest in all of this basic technology instead of maybe looking for things that are specific, and start there first. Microsoft Word, you can use like the find and replace function, and that can always help. That's a level of automation. So there's just so many tools and so many technologies, and how to leverage on that first is, I think, be comfortable with technology first of all. And then when you are, you can then, create your own technology. There are low code applications where you can create your own websites or software, and you can decide what field of law you want to focus on and use those kinds of things. You don't have to be a computer scientist. I'll give you a hack. There's a website called, is it bubble.io. And you don't even have to have any training in computer science or coding, where you can create a nice user-centric experience for your clients. And so you can reach more people by creating different things with all sorts of existing technology. So in summary, I'm essentially saying, be comfortable with technology first before you then get to the place of wanting to start, innovating things to make your life or your life easier and your job more efficient, and to be able to appeal to, a new client base. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you for summarizing. And finally, Mr. Olugasa, My question is, what is the role technology can play in the protection of intellectual property rights in Nigeria?
Good one. So one is even the, no, there are different domains, although let them not, I'm not a lawyer, so let me quickly own up on that. But there are different domains of protection of intellectual property. For example, it could be just the registry, the properties you have registered. Now, again, this takes me to blockchain technology. Now, where technology can do that is you are going to have those patents or those protections, those registrations domesticated or domiciled on blockchain. That means it cannot be, it's tamper-proof. And then if anything comes up, any publication comes up again, it can be checked against that, and then it automatically shows that this is the original owner because the date, the timestamp, everything is there, and no one can even, it's immutable, no one can tamper with it. And that's one area where technology can be used in protecting that.
Thank you very much. So we should be looking at the blockchain technology then. Before we conclude, I'd just like to read out the contributions from Professor Donsil as regards the smart contracts mentioned by Mr. Law Pavilion. He said, very nice comments on smart contracts. Not surprising, this knowledge of non-fugible tokens / blockchain technologies. I see Nigeria is the leading country in the world in adoption of Bitcoin. And he has shared a link. So please, let's all go ahead and look at it and read it. I'm sure we'll gain a lot from that. I cannot at this point but appreciate once again our keynote speaker and our esteemed panelists. It has been a very wonderful and enlightening session. We have learned a lot. We are in the future, and it's a continuous process. So I thank you all for all those who have taken time to join and who have remained till now. It has been a wonderful experience, and we hope, and we really look forward to seeing you next year. We don't know if it will still be in the same mode, but we hope to see you next year. Well, it will be hybrid. It has been spoken. It will be hybrid. So we thank you all. It has been a wonderful and illuminating session. Please can the audience here present give a round of applause. It's well deserved to the keynote speaker and all our panelists. Thank you very much once again. And I'll be handing over now for the results of the competition of our essay to Mr. Uche Matthew. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the quiz essay segment of the annual business luncheon. As part of our tradition, what we do annually is to encourage young lawyers to get into the habit of writing and also participate in this competition we do annually. And the idea behind it is to also get them to contribute and also participate in this program. For this year, we also organized the essay, and we called for entries. And gratefully, we have young people sending their entries, and there was a really high turnout from participants. We also observed that most of the participants also participated in this program by also sending in their entries and also posting on social media. And the judges had a lot of work to do because the quality of the essay sent in was very high. I also, at this junction, want to appreciate the panel of judges that graciously agreed to help us to assess the entries that was received from young lawyers. The fact that this eminent panel of judges had a lot of work to do also attests to the fact that our young lawyers are really putting a lot of work and are also technology savvy. We want to appreciate the panel of judges led by Mr. Ikechukwu Wana, the chairman of the Lagos branch of the MPA. We say thank you so much, sir, for putting in so much work into this. We also want to thank Ms. Helen Anatogu, advisory board member of the African Technology Foundation. And lastly, Mr. Rotimi Ogunyemi, who is the chairman of the ICT committee of the MBA section of business law. I want to ask if Mr. Ogunyemi is online so he could give us a review of what the judges had to do to select the winner. Over to you now, Mr. Ogunyemi.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to say on behalf of my co-judges, a big thank you to the organizers. It was an honor assisting in the selection of the winner of the essay competition. So, I mean, the judges received a total of 20 applications, and these applications were reviewed through a meticulous process and, of course, independently by the panel of 3 judges. The evaluation criteria, as it were, included conformity to the contest rules, clarity of expression, general organization, depth of understanding and analysis, and of course, relevance to the discourse. I must say that the quality of the entries were stellar, they were superb, and like you could imagine, it was tough grading each of the applications. But while it was a rigorous process, I have no doubt that whoever it is that will come out tops here would be very deserving of that honor and that position. So once again, I want to say thank you, and back to you. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ogunyemi, and we also appreciate you so much for putting in so much time to do this for us. Okay, so we'll now come to the moment where we have to announce the winner of the essay competition in this annual business luncheon. And I'm sure many of the participants are watching online, and in case you are holding your breath, I wish I can create suspense now. Okay, so let me just do the top 5. The judges had to make a short list of top 5 persons, and then we have to choose a winner out of it. Now we have Mr. Babani Fesi Ajintobi. We also have Mr. Wali Anifa. We have Soliat Disu, and we have Ms. Surat Anifowoshe, and then we also have Ishak Obashola Akpan Lango. Now, the winner of this competition will receive the prize, will be entitled to sponsorship of professional course of his or her choice, particularly the Association of Chartered Secretary of Institutes of Nigerian Professional Examination, or also that of the Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. And the firm will be responsible for the full sponsorship and payment of all the costs for writing this exam. That is the price for this exam, this quiz competition. Now, the idea behind this is because the law firm of SP Ajibade and Co. is very well focused on training and professional development of lawyers that work for them. And also, we also want that to be the core value for young lawyers. So that's why the prize is focused on that aspect. So for the year 2021, the winner of the essay competition of the SP Ajibade annual essay competition is Mr. Ishak Obashola Akpanlando. I hope I got that right. Mr. Ishak Obashola Akpanlando is an associate in the law firm of Charles Anthony LLP. We want to say a big congratulations to you for emerging as winner of this annual competition. Also, at the same time, we also want to congratulate every other person who participated in this competition. We want to say there can only be one winner. There will always be next time. But also, thank you so much for taking out your time to participate in this process. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think finally we have come to the end of the 14th annual business luncheon of SP Ajibade and Co. We would like to, on behalf of the managing partner, the partners management, and the staff of SP Ajibade and Co, thank everyone who has participated. Fourth of thanks goes first and foremost to the guest speaker, Professor Rodriguez. We thank you very much for the well-considered and highly informative people that you presented. We'd also like to thank the panelists. Let me start from thanking my Lord, the Honorable Chief Judge of Borno State, Justice Kasim Sena. Thank you very much, my Lord. I'd like to thank the learned sake as well, Mr. Toyebi. Thank you for the practical tips that you have given SP Ajibade, and I believe every other of participating in this year's business luncheon for free, at that matter. We thank you very much. I also like to thank Mr. Okpe. Okay, when that comes, we'll treat it. I'd like to thank Mr. Okpe Odusoga, Mr. Pavilion. Thank you very much. You know, our firm is also an information technology loving firm. So we've joined in patronizing your product for such a long time. As I was sitting down there, in fact, the request for renewal of our business, Law Pavilion business for the year 2022 just came in. And I said, wow, Mr. Olusoga is making money even while we're gathered here. Thank you so much for what you have made available to the legal industry in Nigeria. And last but not the least among our panelists, that's phone caller. Thank you very much for your participation in this year's ABL. It's been really enlightening what technologies are now applicable to the legal practice. I believe that she wanted to describe which group she belonged to, whether it's the millennial or the maybe we are very many within that group that we don't know where we really belong. But more importantly, what you have told us today has made us to know that we'd better move towards the side of the millennial. So we'll try and do that. Thank you very much for the participation. I also thank all participants online. This year, I know we have very loyal participants. Back in the days, it used to be a question of you have to send the IV, they have to come physically. But now we can take more people because technology is really enabling even this event. So we thank you, everyone who kept faith with us at the 14th ABL. I thank the press, thank my colleagues in chamber. And I don't know whether the founding partner is still online with us. Let me thank Chief SP Ajibade and Co, for the roles he has played all the years. Thank you very much, sir. We are grateful. So that will be it. Thank you, everyone. See you next year.